The winter of 2018-19 actually started out warmer than normal. And in early January in the Lincoln area, for example, there was no frost in the ground, and it didn't look like we were going to have a severe winter until the middle of January, when a displaced Arctic air mass came down here and lodged itself over eastern Nebraska, setting up a disaster in many ways, because the ground now froze deep. The rivers began to freeze over with much thicker ice than they normally have in our area. And then when we had our first warm rain event in the middle of the month, all of a sudden that snowpack melted. In the urban areas like Lincoln, we were in good shape. The water quickly removed from our area. But in the lower areas near streams and rivers, the ice began to break up, and it caused ice jams which pushed up onto bridges and roads, destroying roads and bridges, and the water levels rose higher and higher, flooding much of the areas along the Niobrara, the Platte, and the Missouri. As we go into the next month, going into April, this pattern continues. A pattern of colder than normal just for our area. Once we get into a pattern in the Great Plains, it seems to lock in for a while until something bounces it out. Going ahead into the spring, it's a slow emergence out of our winter dormancy. That's good, because if we have an early spring, we run the risk of an untimely freeze in April and even early May that can kill the buds. So a slow spring is actually good, but we're having a lingering effect of the ground is saturated, rivers are high, and the River Forecast Unit of the National Weather Service says we are at risk of having river flooding all the way into summer. And that's for two reasons. We already have high water levels, the ground is saturated, but more importantly, we're going into the wet time of year. This is the time of year where we get our heavy thunderstorms and spring rains. May is the wettest month ahead of us. June is the second wettest month. So we have two of our wettest months for our region ahead of us, and it doesn't bode well for stream levels. For us here in an urban area, it's just a nuisance. If we want to get out and do gardening, we're going to find the soil is saturated, and we're going to find that it's still quite cold, so it's going to be difficult to have plants germinate if you put out seeds for a few more weeks. But that's the outlook, staying wet and staying cooler on into summer.